So I have a question. What causes the holdup for these cases to go in front of a judge?
It depends on the court's availability. It depends on the judge's availability. Every judge, every circuit, like every county has its own policies and procedures, and you have to adhere to them to the T, or otherwise they just leave you in the lurch. They're like, yeah, this is wrong, and that's about it.
And the judge, he was telling us, like, look, when he got appointed to the bench, I think he said he had 5,000 or 6,000 cases assigned to him. Have to have multiple day trials. There's only 365 days in a year. So if you really think about it, like, we were lucky. Our trial didn't last many days, but one day. But I've been in trials that have lasted 5 days.
Well, man, welcome back to another episode of the Only Lawsuits podcast. Today, we have a very special episode with two powerhouses in my presence. They just rendered a $963,000 verdict in court.
$983,000.
$983,000 verdict in court. So I'm going to let Mike started off, man.
Yeah, man. We had a jury trial this week. It was a good case, man. We had a case where there was a client of ours that was provided a ladder from someone. He was like a handy guy. Got a ladder from a property owner, and basically the ladder was broken. As a result, he was injured. And we sued. Property owner kind of just sat there and didn't do anything, didn't help him do anything. And ultimately, this was about 4 years ago. So we ended up getting our trial date after being kicked around a few times and having to move trial dates around. We got a trial date literally the week of Thanksgiving, man. And can't be thankful enough. We had a very, very good jury that gave us a $983,000 verdict. So what I really want to get into, though, is kind of like this was my this is like my fourth or fifth trial that I've been involved in, but I think this is Farah's first trial.
Yeah, this was my first.
So Farah, you're not a lawyer yet, but you were sitting right next to me and helping me do everything. Mm-hmm. Tell me about what your thoughts were about the trial.
I think, like you said, I think it was a really good case. I'm really happy for our client. I'm happy for their family. It was just an interesting process to go through. I don't think I was expecting all of the moving parts that are involved in it necessarily until I actually got to go through the process. People don't realize like how much effort and time it takes to actually prep for everything. Like you said, it was years in the making. And sometimes people think also that their case is going to get heard like tomorrow. Yeah. Like this guy, this family waited 4 years in order to even get their day in court.
To me, I've gone through it a few times. I remember my first trial, it was right after I got barred, and I was sitting as second chair in a case, and we actually lost that case. It was my first, it was with my prior firm, and it was heartbreaking to lose that case. Ever since that trial, I've been like very, very like nervous sometimes when I wait for the jury to render. But it was interesting just being a part of it. And yeah, like 4 years in the making. You're working for 4 years to get to this point, and it's tough, man. Because talk about the jury selection process. From you've never done it before. What did you see going on that like caught your eye?
For me, it was really fun because even while you were talking, when you were interviewing the witnesses, my job was just stare at the jury and see what they were doing. Even when we were selecting them in the first place, it's kind of fun because you get to like prejudge them a little bit just based on their occupation, whether or not they're married, whether they have kids, and just try and see whether or not if they fit into what we want as a jury for.
Yeah. And so, Josh, one of have you ever been on jury selection or anything like that?
I have been selected to be a part of a jury, but I've gotten out of it.
But did you how you fill out the information sheet?
Yes.
So in those information sheets that you fill out, right, there's a limited set of data that you're given. Number one is like your age, your race, I don't think race is on there, right? I don't remember if race. Yeah, I don't think race is on there. Well, you're not really supposed to take race into consideration, although some
you're not allowed to do that.
That's discrimination, which we do not encourage. But what happens is like we're given a piece, like 20 or 30 pieces of paper, depending on the amount of jurors that are there, and we go through, and it's like a game. Right? Because you're hustling through flipping these papers, looking at, okay, where does this person work? What does he do for work? How old is he? Is he married? Is she married? And you think you have to really like look at a jury of your peers and like kind of like figure out, okay, what are these people going to like my client? Right? So like one thing I'll do is I don't know if you caught it when I started doing it, but as soon as I got the paper, they gave us like a chart where we had to like fill out things.
It was like playing Guess Who. Like it's like, okay, not this person, just based on what they do for work and stuff like that.
It's so screwed up. But like I'll look at someone's age and their employment, I'll be like, no, I don't want that guy. I'll be like, oh, this guy's he's an owner of a business. Nope, don't want him. And it's all based off of what party I'm representing, right? So it's like that's the dynamic with us is we represent both plaintiffs and defendants. So when I'm on a defense side, I look for a totally different type of jury. And on this case in particular, right, like I saw people that were business owners, instantly cut them. People that were like higher level up in management didn't want them. And I would literally target those individuals and try to find ways to get rid of them, right? So like one of the process that we were going through is called voir dire. Right. It's you go up. It's the only time like that an attorney really gets to like feel out the jury and question them. Every other time there's literally a jury instruction out there. Hey, you're not allowed to talk to the jurors. The judge is like, hey, the attorneys you're going to see the attorney and his staff and the plaintiff or the defendant. They're not going to talk to you. Don't hold that. I'm telling them not to talk to you because it's jury tampering essentially. Mm-hmm. So when I would get up there, and I would go and like pick the jury. Like I would find certain people, and I would ask very broad questions. I would be like, "Hey, how do you feel about this, or how do you feel about that?" Or for instance, my guy, he was a hunter. Does anyone like hunting? You can ask very broad questions.
Or you were like, is anyone against hunting? And then this one guy raised his paddle or whatever. And you can also tell very easily the people who don't want to be there because they just keep on raising their paddle for like any objection they have to anything. And you don't want those people either because you want someone who's going to be at least invested in the case enough to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah. And this shit's boring, dude. Like people are bored. So like one of my
the jurors were falling asleep at certain points, and I literally had to write that down. Like fell asleep. Like
there's a John Grisham novel and a movie that I really really loved. I've watched it quite a few times called Runaway Jury, and the concept of that movie is essentially them also going through a jury selection, and figuring out exactly what each of these persons' specific interests are in order to render the verdict that they want. So in a sense, this is exactly what you're doing. Like
in there's cases, right? Like there's the another is I don't think Grisham wrote The Devil's Advocate, did he? I know it's a movie.
It is a movie. Great movie. I don't know if he wrote it though.
But like that's one of Keanu Reeves. That was one of his big accomplishments in that movie. I remember is he was like literally excited. He was such a skillful in selecting a jury that he would get multi-million-dollar verdicts or whatever it would be. But that's the cool thing about jury selection. I love jury selection, but it is so risky because, dude, I feel like I would try to crack jokes and I would try to like be up there and be a comedian. Like I instantly knew how Tony Hinchcliffe felt at the Trump rally when no one was laughing. Cause I don't know if you heard.
You literally said something about Tony Hinchcliffe and you were like, no one.
Yeah, literally. Like I was trying to get something out of these people. And, eventually they warm up to you and you break the ice and, you kind of get there. But it's crazy, man. It's like I feel like especially one of the best parts of this sort of litigation, I think what kind of makes a litigator is your ability to really interact with people and get to know people. And it's kind of like you're a peacock, bro. Like you're just, the part from you remember, makes me think of the other guys where Mark Wahlberg's like, I'm a peacock, I just gotta fly. That's literally like, that's literally how you feel. Cause like you're just showboating, man. And it's fun. It's so much fun. Like it's definitely the funnest part of, I think, being a lawyer.
Well, one thing that I have to ask you both, because it is also very interesting with jury selection, because you guys are looking out for certain things for each person that's being selected. Now, I think over time, and just in my opinion, from the outside looking in, it has to be a little bit more challenging with the advent of, like, say, social media, depending on the stakes of a case, right? Because sometimes maybe in a criminal trial, if it's a celebrity, they've already been exposed to so much information that's already come out about that person and are already coming into jury selection with negative connotations attached.
Yeah.
And so one thing I want to ask you is, how guaranteed is it that somebody that's being selected for a jury is going to come in with no bias, or be honest about coming in with no bias?
Dude, that's the beauty of voir dire. You got to be good to figure out whether or not these people have a bias, because there are people, especially with celebrity trials, like we were talking a little bit about, like the Johnny Depp trial and the Jonathan Majors trial. And then there was one, with, that we were just talking about.
Jussie Smollett.
The Jussie Smollett trial, right? Those are like highly publicized trials, and people want, like, as weird as it is, people wanted to be on those trials
because they're more interesting to them. And
not only that, like, juries go and sell books and do all this stuff. Like all the people from OJ, they talk about it. Like they get their little 15 minutes of fame, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's pretty cool, but that's the thing. Voir dire, that's the process of where you literally got to pick those people out. And honestly, man, sometimes people are good liars. But
you don't just base it off of their answer. So he's listening to their answer. I'm looking at their body language. I'm looking at what they're doing and how they're acting when he's not even speaking to them. So that's why it's good to have that extra set of eyes. So like I said, even when he was speaking to the witnesses, I was able to gauge the witnesses or the jurors, and when they were falling asleep and when they were paying attention, or, even when certain people were nodding a lot or like smiling during certain parts, like you can get a good read on them.
Yeah. The you have to have someone, there with you to do this. Like Farah, like literally I sat her down and she's never done this before. And I literally was like, your job is to take notes on the jurors and look at people and cue me in, because when I'm up there talking, I'm in a zone. Mm-hmm. I'm in my element. I'm doing my thing. So I rely on my assistants and my staff to really, and even the client, I tell the client, look, you got to look at the jury. You got to give me a read. This is vibes, man. You're straight. It's just vibes. You got to go off of your gut instinct and your vibe, because nonverbal communication is the best form of like telling someone's reaction to you. Things such as an open, like there's things I've learned throughout my time. Crossed hands. I literally got rid of a guy because he crossed his hands. And the reason I say that, there's two types of ways to get rid of them, right? There's for cause, indicating that this person is biased and no matter what, they're going to, my client's not going to get a fair shot. Mm-hmm. Or a preemptory challenge, which is just any reason. Now, sometimes you get called out. Like, say, I've been in trials where, opposing counsel will call us out for getting rid of someone because they're white, or they're a certain like a certain ethnicity. Mm-hmm. And literally it's one of those things where you got to be like, yeah, I'm not getting rid of them because they're black. Like, I'm not doing that. But it's a weird conversation to have sometimes.
Yeah. That they might have some sort of bias. You can't really put your finger on what it is, but you know that it's there.
But like when you really get to find that bias is so hard, and you got to just be skilled in finding the nonverbal communication. But I got rid of people for a lot of things, right? They said one guy was, just saying he would not give my client a fair shot. I asked the question, who's willing to give I asked 2 questions during this voir dire in particular. I was like, if I were to ask everyone to give my client a large sum of money, would everyone be okay with it? And then, everyone, I think.
Everyone said yeah.
Everyone said yeah. And then I said, all right, so I'm just going to double down on that. If I were to ask my client to give my client trillions of dollars to the U.S. government asked taxpayers, literally everyone shot up and they were like, no. But instantly, so like right there, I knew who I was going to trigger, and I gauged it. 2 things that really helped me there is everyone, most of them I felt like I could get a decent jury that would give me a good number, but I knew the main pivotal point was fairness. The number that I asked for had to be consistent with what they thought was fair. Because if I ask for too much, they're definitely going to look at my client and me like, right? And that's where I kind of realized, look, I got to take the brute here, and I'm going to just say I'm doing my job and convincing these people, right?
How many jurors did you guys have to go through before settling in on the final selection?
So we had a pool of, I think, like 30?
34, 35, I think.
Yeah, I think we had 34 or 35.
Yeah.
And we honestly picked our jury out of, we were really lucky. We were able
We only got to like the second row, I think.
Yeah, we only went through maybe 15 or 20, but that's really rare.
Yeah.
It's really rare. And like, look, this is the craziest thing about trial, right? This jury pools are jury pools. You don't know who you're going to get. So like if you get a set of jurors for your first like 20 people, buddy, you're going to have a hard time getting a good jury. And it's not like you can be like, oh, I don't want these people. It's literally numerical. Juror 1 through whatever number you request. And if you use your 4-cause challenges and your preemptory challenges and literally you get stuck with jurors, you got to still do your job.
You're shit out of luck.
Yeah, you got to do it.
It's like playing poker.
Yeah, but that's one of the that's kind of what I tell people. Like, look, when I'm dealing with a case and I'm asking for money, I'm like, listen, right now, if we get an offer from an opposing party, I'm like, look, this is a guarantee. I can guarantee you're going to walk away with X amount of dollars, all things considered. But let me tell you what, you go to trial, there's a chance we can walk away with millions. And you see their eyes light up. They're happy. Everyone's really happy when they hear millions.
But then you also run the risk of just because you have a judgment doesn't mean you're getting that money.
Yeah. Well, then I say, well, there's also the chance that you can walk away with 0. And they're like you see them like, it's like panic, right? So, but that's the reality, right? It's not that we're scared to go to trial. Like, I love this. I love this. It was so much fun. I actually enjoy doing the trial more than I enjoy doing the actual paperwork.
So I have a question for both of you, and Farah could get it started off. So one thing that you said leading up to discussing the juror selection is that sometimes these cases can take years to be seen in front of a court because people's immediate perception is that once a case is filed, that they'll be able to see a judge in the not too distant future. What causes the holdup for these cases to go in front of a judge?
I mean, it's definitely going to be the court. It depends on the court's availability. It depends on the judge's availability. It depends on whether or not you filed everything correctly, whether it was done in the way that the judges and the court want it. Because every judge, every circuit, like every county has its own policies and procedures, and you have to adhere to them to the T, or otherwise they just leave you in the lurch. They're like, yeah, this is wrong, and that's about it.
Not only that, we were talking to the judge in between the breaks, and the judge, amazing judge, really, really, really great judge. he was telling us, like, look, when he got appointed to the bench, I think he said he had what, like 5,000 or 6,000 cases assigned to him. That's 5,000 or 6,000 cases that, have to have multiple day trials. There's only 365 days in a year. So if you really think about it, like, we were lucky. Our trial didn't last many days, but one day. But I've been in trials that have lasted 5 days. I've been in trials that have lasted 8 days. I've been in trials that have lasted 2 weeks. And if you think about it, like, it's very, very hard, but it's this balance. You gotta always give people the opportunity to have their day in court, right? Give them the opportunity to have their case heard, because you don't want to stop. You don't want to put a time limit on someone. But I do know right now the Supreme Court is really hammering down on the judges. And I say the Florida Supreme Court, but the Florida Supreme Court is really trying to optimize the efficiency of how the courts are handling cases, make it more like the federal system. The problem is, the federal system's super quick, super efficient per se, but we have so many more cases and so many more moving parts. And from what I understand, a lack of funding to facilitate the speed that the Florida Supreme Court may be asking to get to. So, obviously I don't know, I'm not a judge, but I do know from, Farah helping getting stuff scheduled for me and just my interactions with the court, we can't get calendar time for the judge. Like, there's cases just for me to have a simple hearing, I'm a month or two out,
Yeah, we're looking at January dates for most people. I know we're at the end of November, but even then, sometimes it takes like 2-3 months for us to get a hearing. And a lot of it is also COVID backup. There's a lot of COVID backup, even to the trial that we went to. That was also part of the COVID backup. Because it took so long. And, each county only has so many resources. The smaller counties, they do things very differently because they don't have as much staff. They don't have as many resources. So I think this whole thing where they're trying to like streamline it is going to be kind of difficult for those smaller counties.
Yeah. And it sucks because like clients don't understand when we sit down.
Not at all. Oh my God.
I've had clients literally like terminate me because I can't get in front of a judge fast enough. And I'm like, look, there's nothing I can do. They go and hire a lawyer and I'll still see, kind of the work. I'll follow up on their case. I look at their cases just to see if that guy did a better job than me. 9 times out of 10, the lawyers that they hire still can't get hearing time and they actually do a worse job than me. So, I kind of laugh and chuckle when I see that, when I'm like, your lawyer screwed up, but whatever.
And they delayed their case even more by switching to a different lawyer because now you're just wasting your own time. But we have clients who call and they're like, oh, file this. And they think they're going to get a hearing tomorrow. It is ridiculous.
Dude.
They're like, you're not doing your job.
And then they don't want to pay their bills.
Nope.
What did the preparation for this trial look like?
It's basically 4 years of prep, man. The client, so can't go into too many case-specific details, but when you're prepping for a trial involving personal injury, it's very, very specific. Now, we have a smaller time frame in which we have to file a case, but generally, look, you got to get your evidence together. And in personal injury cases, one of the biggest things for evidence is your medical records, right? You got to go get treatment. And now we have a 2-year statute of limitations in Florida to file, accident cases. And we have certain requirements that we have to engage in good faith to negotiate with the auto insurance companies or the insurance providers before we file suit. So the first thing I tell people is look, go get checked out. This is the only opportunity that you have to see what you injured, how you injured it. That can take 6 months right there. That's just us sitting, waiting for our client to figure out what's wrong. And then, God forbid, they need, surgery, so on and so forth. We have to then go through the process of letting them go through that surgery, see if there's any other issues that happen from that. So from there, we're at a year. Then it gets down to filing the actual lawsuit, the complaint, and then going through the discovery process. The discovery process, depending on the case type, is the most complex part. We got to do depositions. We got to do, request for production, interrogatories, request for admissions, so many moving parts. Then we got to go and do mediation. Mediation is like a last ditch effort for us to try to settle. If it doesn't settle, then we go and we jump in line with all the other cases and we go to pretrial conference, and who knows, we get pushed around at pretrial conference so many times because I think in our last pretrial, like there was a 2-week trial docket and there was like 20 cases set for that 2 weeks. And I'm like, so we end up getting pushed. We have 3 or 4 cases set for the same trial period
In the same trial docket in January.
So literally, like theoretically, I could be going to trial for 3 different cases back to back in January. Realistically, it probably won't happen, and hopefully it doesn't happen. But I think we're equipped enough to where we can handle it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that because I have to shut the firm down essentially for like a whole month before to prep for that. So it's a lot of work, man. A lot of work, and it is to get that one day in court took me hours, countless hours of work.
But you're somebody that actually enjoys going to court. Now, if you had to give advice to any up and coming lawyers, right? One thing you've mentioned prior is that going to court is kind of like, it's like a hidden superpower when dealing with personal injury tenders. Can you explain some of that?
The best way I could say is like, look, you do need, you need to be known, right? You need to go to court. When you're dealing with insurance companies, they need to know that you're willing to go all the way. And that's one of the reasons why going to court's important. If you don't get a lawyer that's willing to go to trial and they're scared of going to trial, they don't know how to go to trial, they're not going to get you a good tender. We have been so great. Like we've been blessed over the past year that a lot of insurance companies they're not even giving us the opportunity to sue them because they're either tendering the policy limits or they're making great offers that I have to sit down and tell the clients ethically, like, look, this is the offer. And yes, could we go to court and possibly get more? Yes. And I do the same dance. Is there a risk you can get less? Yes. 9 times out of 10 people, when I come, tell them, look, this is a risk, people aren't really risk takers. But there's times that we get 0 offers and I get the opportunity to sue. And, that like once we start suing and things start adjusting on the other end and I get another lawyer assigned and we start talking, game knows game, dude. Like they know, I tell them exactly. That's one thing I'm very clear about. I tell my opposing counsel, generally, this is exactly what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And I'm telling you straight up, this is what's going to happen. I'm giving you the game plan. So you can either cut this off right now and let's just get rid of me, or prepare for a long, hard battle. Mm-hmm. And I'm not scared of the work. I actually they say I'm like a pig in the mud, man. I mean, I used to be as big as a pig.
No.
Put up. Yeah, dude, I was a big ass dude. 400, bro.
Looking at that reel, I was like I was saying, I see you every day, so it doesn't register. But when I saw that video, I was like, holy
you basically lost a full person.
Yeah. And I'm ready to replace it with the stress of work. But not realistically, man, like you got to be willing to get dirty. You got to be willing to play. And honestly, you do have to engage with opposing counsel respectfully and aggressively. You know what I'm saying? So, but Farah sees, you've worked for other attorneys that aren't litigators. Tell me what your perspective is.
I mean, it's just completely different. It's just entirely different because at that point you're mostly only dealing with paperwork and the clients.
Yeah, but what's the, like, if you had to compare some of the other people you've worked for versus like working for me, what's some things that you've noticed in, the attorney style?
I feel like they're just a lot more laid back. They don't have as much of an aggressive approach because they don't need to. They don't need to show that persona necessarily that like they're willing to fight for you, because there's no fight involved. It's mostly just writing things down.
Yeah. And I mean, I've dealt with those sort of attorneys, and it's funny, because like
you can tell if they ever had to go to trial, they'd be kind of like skittish. They'd be like,
yeah,
what am I doing?
And literally, I appreciate when someone acknowledges, like, hey, I don't really want to be here, like, because to me it's like, look, I'm not trying to say I'm a bigger, badder attorney, but it's like, look, if you own up to it and say, like, look, I don't really want to litigate it, like, I'm gonna calm down, I'll chill out a little bit and come down and kind of be normal. But if you try to, there was one case, one attorney. You know exactly which one I'm talking about. This guy pissed me off because he was a brand new lawyer, did not know anything, did not know not a thing. And he wasted my time. I literally made this a personal vendetta where I went at him as aggressively as I possibly could and made him look like a fool. And do I regret it? Not one goddamn minute. But look, you want to play in the big leagues? Let's go, baby. Like,
he learned his lesson. He definitely
did
learned
he
his
though?
lesson.
Because he kept trying to come back at you too.
He did, but when you have it was funny when you have I literally, looking back at it, I don't even feel bad, because like he literally was in front of a senior judge, a judge that recently was about to retire, and even the judge, like, there was just hearings that I would look at this guy and I'm like, dude, what in the world, and like, look. I try to be respectful to all my colleagues in the profession, but there's certain lawyers that I just look at them and I'm like, come on, man, like, what are you doing? And it's horrible, but not all lawyers are made equal. And when you're looking for a lawyer, you gotta get a lawyer that knows what the hell they're doing, that's willing to go that extra approach. So, I mean, thankfully people hire me because they know I'm a little bit more aggressive. They know I'm an asshole. But I'm a respectful asshole. I like to be respectful.
So let me ask you something. With certain cases that have these large sum judgments, although the jury is saying to you that the $983,000 has been rendered and this is what the opposing party is now responsible for, how challenging is it sometimes to get those funds from the opposing party?
It all depends if there's insurance, right? So if there's insurance, we obviously, if it's within the insurance limits, the insurance is going to write us a check if they don't appeal it. 9 times out of 10, their strategy is appeal, and then, they try to use the appellate process to negotiate, blah, 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 blah. But if there's no insurance and we're dealing against companies or we're dealing against an individual with assets, it's still a long journey because that number, that $980,000 is just a number on a piece of paper, which I get to proudly say I obtained, but now it's time to get paid, right? And so, we're dealing with the process. It's going to be a long battle to get that money, but if you did your job and you were relentless enough to get a good verdict, you just got to go either hire counsel to help you get paid or go that extra step and focus on getting paid,
You guys put in a lot of work. I saw the lead up, the few weeks leading up to it, how many late nights you guys spent here, putting into this case. Can you tell us anything else about the experience?
Farah, you shoot. I mean, it was your first experience. Tell me how you felt more so.
I think by all aspects, it was a great first experience. I think I got a lot out of it. I learned a lot out of it, just like how, just procedurally also, because it's different, like knowing what it is and then seeing it in practice, just like what they teach you in law school. What they teach you there has nothing to do with actual practice. So I think it was just a great experience all around. Like, we had a good client, our witnesses were on time, our expert, everything. I think it just went well. So I feel like I don't have anything negative to contribute. So,
for me, I always look at it, and I looked at it as a learning experience, right? Like I'm glad Farah had the experience, great experience, but literally this morning we had a sit down and we had a critique, kind of like a critique of what it is, because like part of my job is, look, I want to mentor her to be the very best she possibly can be. And, you know, she does an amazing job with what she does. I want her to be able to do everything I can do, right? But with that being said, I critique myself very hard. So like I look at, even from how my binders were set up to how I was constantly asking for feedback from her, because it's always it's like that self-improvement, man. And I think the best, what I got out of the experience is, look, who I was, 4 or 5 years ago when I got barred, to compared to who I am now, like the changes have been so great. And am I getting way better? Yes. But is there so much room for improvement? Yes, there is. And that's the cool thing about the practice of law and, doing this trial. It's called the practice of law. You're constantly practicing and improving. So, for me, it was just a good opportunity to sit down, reanalyze me as a lawyer, analyze how I do my job, and just improve so I can keep doing my job for more clients, And
I think that self-introspection, like as a boss, as a mentor, like as it shows a lot of growth and ways for us to grow as well. And I think that shows the mark of like a good attorney, because you're not going to think everything went perfect. You're going to try to find the best ways that you can try to improve like the processes, your organization, everything. Yeah. And I think that just like, everyone who works under you also sees those things and follows suit.
Yeah. I don't want to be a boss. I want to be a good, leader and,
role model.
Yeah. Like, to me, that's the most important thing. And one of the things I stress throughout the entire practice, as you all know, is like, we're all the same. The only difference between me and anyone in this practice is, I have a law license, but doesn't mean I wouldn't encourage everyone to get a law license. It's whether or not you want to do the work. And frankly, I don't recommend anyone go do the work if they haven't started yet. But look, it's all about the team, man. It's a team effort. Like, yes, I technically got the verdict, but it was my team that helped me get that verdict. So when I say, I try always to use we's, not I's, because we got the verdict. It's not me. I don't want to be that attorney on the billboard with my forehead showing saying,
not naming any names.
He got me millions. Nah, motherfucker. I didn't get. My team got you millions. Kraken Law Group got you millions. That's the reason why my law firm is not named after me, because it's more than me. It takes more than one person to do this job. And that's one thing I'm very adamant about.
Well, look, man, we see the work that you put in on a day-to-day basis for the clients here, and the results speak for themselves. I mean, congratulations, man.
Thank you, brother.
$983,000 is not chump change.
Woohoo.
On the cusp of a 7-figure settlement.
Listen, man, I've already got a 7-figure settlement, but I really want, so it's screwed up. I look at 6-figure settlements, like not everyone says, like a few people called me and they were like, yo, congrats. I'm like, 900 is to me now. I'm like, I want that. I'm part of the $1 Million Advocate, club or whatever. There's like a membership that if you hit a 7-figure settlement, you become $1 Million Advocate, right? So I'm on that list. I'm very, like, out of the nation, there's only a handful of attorneys that are on that list, a few thousand. But there's a multi-million-dollar advocates club, which is like that next tier. And I'm like, fuck, I want to be on that list.
Soon enough, man. Soon enough.
So, but yeah, man, I look, it was fun, man. And hopefully you're going to be around and see some multi-million-dollar ones, and then we'll really get excited.
Oh, well, look, man, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
You want to know what I did after winning that case, after we got the verdict, how I celebrated?
How'd you celebrate?
My son pissed on me. That's how I celebrated.
Lovely.
Nothing like a little infant to keep your ego in check.
Facts.
So
Yeah.
but by the time Atticus is a little older, you'll have a couple multi-million-dollar settlements under your belt. But man, so informative for any of like the viewers at home. If you like what you heard, please leave some comments and suggestions below. And this was a special episode specifically tuned in on this case. And we have some more content coming to you soon. Stay tuned.
Let's go.